What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today it is day 2. That's rounds 2 and 3 of this 2025 NFL mock draft with trades. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the community because we are growing at the fastest rate in history. So I have only you guys to thank for that, which is awesome. I want to make this my full-time gig, and we have a whole lot of awesome things coming, including my own special draft board for you guys to be able to check out, which is going to be soon. Feel free to message me about it, and then we'll actually be having a full NFL draft guide that you guys can end up purchasing, which you guys can end up actually seeing the exact grades and every little bitty detail, which I'm super excited to finally drop to you guys because I wanted it to be thorough enough to where you guys actually are able to look at everything that you guys are looking for. And I'm not going to price it at the same rate that some other YouTubers do because I want you guys to have access and be able to just have a great time with it. But let's get into this. Again, if you guys want to support the show, the easiest and best way to do it is by using code HAILMARY at UnderDog Fantasy. It's the top link in the link tree, but also you guys can just type in Hail Mary when you end up signing up. If you just put $10 down, which I know you guys have been blessing me with super chats and all that, so if you take that and just put it towards that and play one time during the Super Bowl, which, by the way, there's a no sweat discount for you guys who, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's for everyone. But there's also a free Travis Kelce pick for new people. But the no sweat thing basically says it protects you if you lose. And it ends up being something you could end up using on another bet later on. So, or another play later on, not necessarily a bet. But if you guys do use that, it pretty much lowers your risk and you guys can end up having a great time. They send me $60, so it costs you the $10 you'd send me to get $60. So, it's a great way to be able to support the show because I know you guys have been awesome and blessing me with that. Just bless yourself with being able to potentially win some more money too. Worst case scenario, you end up pretty much still spending the $10 on me. So I appreciate you. I love you guys. Let's get into this and let's talk about what happened in the first video because we ended up sending actually Myles Garrett to Philadelphia. Got some pushback in terms of the Bryce Huff contract. I understand that. From inside sources, I heard that Deshaun Watson has an insurance policy based on injury that could free up $40 million in terms of cap. Do not quote me on that. I am quoting somebody else who probably quoted it from somebody else. But that could be able to free up enough money to be able to take on a contract like Bryce Huff where you're pretty much buying low. And again, that's not really a Howie thing to sell. But I do like the idea. Obviously, there could be something like another future pick that's tossed into that equation as well. But again, I still am very confident based on the fact that the brother of the GM of the Browns is on the Philadelphia front office. Myles Garrett has literally said he wanted to play in Philly, and he does have a quasi no trade contract no trade clause because he is going to choose where he wants to sign a contract. No one's going to be sending that capital to have him for a 1-year rental. He's 29 years old. So it's also not like you're trading for Jalen Ramsey when he's like 25, 26. So I think there is the chance that it's not as expensive as what you think. But that was the big thing that took 15 minutes of the show. People were complaining about that, but it is kind of a massive part of the episode. It did not take 50 minutes to start the episode. It was a big part of it. But regardless, we had Tennessee and New York switch for a very cheap price because for Tennessee, I just wanted to get my third rounder back, and I thought Shedeur's a better fit in Tennessee, Cam Ward a better fit in New York. I did what was best for both franchises. I acquired the quarterback that is going to give both the quarterback and the team the most chance at success, and I ended up doing it for a reasonable price that ended up benefiting both teams. I'm super happy with how that turned out. People asked about potentially trading up with like the Raiders to 2 at that point, and I would say if the Titans somehow got a third-round pick and still got Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, I would be perfectly happy with that solution. You do not need to be too pissed off if you don't get one of the quarterbacks at that point. But I digress. You guys can end up reading in terms of what you guys want to see with the picks that normally happened. I'll just be discussing the trades for time's sake. Dallas ended up trading with Indianapolis as there were pretty much the primary targets for Indy gone. I felt very happy with moving up with Indianapolis jumping the Dolphins to select Malachi Starks, and it made me feel a lot more comfortable about taking Matt Golden at 14. I had the Seahawks jump the Cardinals, giving Atlanta a couple more picks. I've done that trade before as well, so they can get Josh Simmons to play guard in the short run, but he has experience at right tackle, so unfortunately, the track record for Abe Lucas is that he's not super duper healthy. It's going to be someone who could instantly fit in right away, and of course, when Abe's contract is up, then you do have a contingency plan there. But I think Josh is going to be an excellent guard in the short run. You'll see some changes to my board. I had Abdul at number 10 overall on my board, but that was based on him being a holistic edge rusher. But usually when you get picked extremely high, you're going to be put into the role that's suited best for you. So I ended up giving him his DPR grade, which I told you guys would have put him at 1 or 2 in the class, and it ended up doing that. So I just want, if you guys do end up eventually, when I end up dropping it, purchasing the Ultimate Draft Guide, you will be able to see those role specific grades as well for certain players. So get excited about that. But yeah, Josh Simmons was a selection. Also, why I moved up above Arizona is because the offensive line coach for Ohio State joined the Arizona Cardinals roster. They're looking for a guard as well as a right tackle, and I think Josh Simmons would have been perfect to fill that role. Via that trade back, we got Jalen Walker, linebacker, with some edge rusher capability there for the Falcons, kind of choosing what evil I wanted to give to the Buccaneers. Then I had Kansas City jumping up, pick 66 for Colston Loveland. You guys were saying like, hey, we got Jared Wiley. I like Jared Wiley. He is not going to move the needle in terms of being a true tight end one, and neither is Gray in my opinion. But the big thing that I think people are starting to miss here is that right here at 22 is your in-division rival who has a straight connection to Colston Loveland. Like, you are literally screwing over an in-division rival, upgrading a position that has a massive target share, and you're getting a player who could absolutely fit in day one and it'd be able to have maybe 70, 80, even 90% as much effectiveness as Travis Kelce. So I think that's huge because not only do you give yourself a weapon for the price of a third-round pick, it might be an early third, but still a third-round pick, but on top of that, you also disarm one of your in-division rivals. So I think that was something I do think people kind of missed in that equation. But Josh Connerly was moved up for by the Browns. He ended up being slightly adjusted, and he dropped out of that blue chip range, which I think is perfectly fair. I still think he's a fantastic left tackle. And, you know, reviewing the reps that Josh Connerly took, he only really had like 1 or 2 bad reps during the Senior Bowl. And, you know, the second rep where Josh Connerly, like no one wants to talk about it, Josh Connerly went up against Mike Green again, ended up doing a pretty damn fine job at that right tackle spot. So I will say, I think the negative was like he just got surprised by a bull rush. And he's really good at his re-anchor, not good at his initial. And it kind of taught him a lesson. But he won Offensive Lineman of the Week for a reason. But continuing on, we had part of that trade back. We had Siobhan Rivell going to Brian Flores. I love that. And then, of course, Steelers getting another Porter at corner at 32. I think that he's gonna be a first round pick, man. He's hinted at going in the 4.2s, and he was the best in terms of ball skills as well as fluidity at the Senior Bowl for the athleticism that he has. At 33, though, we're here with Cleveland Browns. Didn't take us 15 minutes this time. But so far, we've gotten Abdul Carter, Josh Connerly, respectively. And this is a good place to be. A really good place to be. Because I'm looking, if you guys end up trading away Myles Garrett, there's a hint that Denzel Ward said he didn't want to be here. Not going to take a ton of stock in that. But I will also say that there is a chance that you guys end up going after a corner. Which, at this spot, Azareye'h Thomas, Trey Amos, Max Hairston, legitimate choices. And those guys would not surprise me if they go in the first. So I'd be super happy with that. You could look at the quarterback route, but we're going to look at that at 94 FYI. I'm not going to mess around and find out with that. So a lot of really good options here, though. We've already addressed that tackle spot. We've already addressed an edge spot. And technically, yes, we did get Bryce Huff in this equation. I explained the insurance policy with Deshaun Watson that could free up $40 million. Again, don't fully quote me on that. I'm quoting somebody else. But people who seem to understand cap even better than I do, they're pretty optimistic about the cap space that you guys can free up. But I do really like the idea of going after a cornerback at this point. Running back absolutely should be on the board, but I will say 67, I think we're going to be okay. We're going to be A-okay. And I do think that you do need a long-term option. Newsome not going to be there forever. And so I'm actually going to take the highest ceiling player here in Azareye'h Thomas out of Florida State. 6'2", like damn near 200 pounds. He ended up having a phenomenal day 3 at the Senior Bowl. He had some struggles day 1 and 2, but he's going to be flying, and his pad level was the big issue for him. So we're going to have a quick run on corners here. I think Azareye'h Thomas is fantastic, though. I mean, obviously, you see where he's at on my board at 17. This dude is a really, really good player. At number 34 for the New York Giants, we traded our third-round pick, ended up getting Cam Ward. I think that right now it's pretty, like, there's 2 guys I want to be able to select. It's Trey Amos, and then it's also Ozzy Trapilo. But looking at the teams ahead, I will say, because I deep down want to trade back. I want the Niners to get aggressive here and move up for Trapilo. I will say the Jaguars would be lurking. They would be lurking for that cornerback. But I do have a vision for this team to get Max Hairston. And so I feel comfortable moving back for that reason, because I do want to get some extra draft capital, because I did kind of deplete it jumping up with the Titans to be able to select our QB of the future. And I do think the 49ers need to look at a tackle. They have a good amount of draft capital here as well. I think 99 is, I think it's okay price, because it's the end. It's essentially a 4th round pick, but it also gives the Giants some extra draft capital there. I know the Niners would probably want a little bit more in terms of something in return, but I think for the price that you're about to pay, and for the Giants, you're still going to be able to get Max Hairston at 43. If you aren't, then there's going to be plenty of other options I'm happy with. But for the Niners, you get to move up, and you look at Membu here. Membu's a great choice, but I think Trapilo's better. Membu's going to be great on the move, like more so like wide zone. Ozzy Trapilo is just a rock solid right tackle. Membu is somebody that, I mean, to be honest, it's going to be one of the next like few picks anyways. So you could end up doing Ring Around the Rosie, musical chairs. But Ozzy Trapilo to me is a better tackle than Armand Membu is. And Membu's great, but Trapilo ended up having some fantastic reps there in Mobile. I do not think it's out of the question for him to be a first round pick, but right now we got Trapilo as well as James Pierce Jr. for this squad. 2 really good players who are both in my top 25. He's sitting there, Ozzy Trapilo, at 24. Great anchor. He even took reps at left tackle, which he ended up doing surprisingly very well at. But big fan of his game. Titans, we ended up getting that extra 3rd round pick via that trade back. I need to find where the hell my mouse is. Hello. And, 65. That was a really good move, because we ended up getting Shedeur Sanders, and I ended up explaining it more in the first video, so please feel free to go check it out for a little bit more in-depth. But I think that fit matters more than what people like to give it credit for quarterbacks. And Brian Callahan literally was on record talking about Shedeur Sanders being the archetype of Joe Burrow, which is what he's comfortable with. It didn't work with Will Levis, who is a closer archetype when you look at physicality, being able to have those big-time throws, great arm, to Cam Ward. And I still think Will Levis has a lot of potential, and he's just not in the right system for him. I also think that Cam Ward might have more struggles. So get a 3rd round pick and get a quarterback that fits you better. It's better for Cam Ward. It's better for Shedeur Sanders. It's better for both organizations, and it's better for us, the fans. So I'm very happy with how that ended up playing out. At this point, I mean, I'm sitting pretty right now. There's a ton of picks that I would personally like. Armand Membu is the one that I'm leaning to the most, like looking at the offensive tackles on the board. I mean, it really sucks that Jack Nelson wasn't there. Like, that kind of pisses me off, because I like Jack Nelson. He dropped noticeably for me, but still. But Armand Membu's a right tackle. He's good on the move. He's a power blocker. And worst case scenario, you upgrade at guard, which I think he's going to be perfectly fine at either position. Again, Niners, if you want Armand Membu, switch this one, and I'm going to be perfectly happy with either solution. We're going to get ourselves a top-tier offensive lineman to continue bolstering the line. Number 36, Jacksonville Jaguars first-round pick, Tetaroa McMillan. We're going to be going, to not too far away to Mississippi to get ourselves a boundary corner, because we got ourselves our Drake London, or you can talk about our Mike Evans. We still need a boundary corner desperately. I'd be perfectly happy with Kenneth Grant, but I think that you really need the physicality of Trey Amos. I think Trey Amos is fantastic. I mean, he's sitting there, I think 35 on my big board. Yeah, he's at 35. And he is just dominant, man. I mean, I saw him at the Senior Bowl, ended up leaving with an injury, but inside source told me that it wasn't serious. He was just trying to make sure he was precautious. I love seeing that guys are trying to take care of themselves and, not really like pushing through certain stuff that they don't need to, because he already had multiple days of really, really good work. So I'm happy to see it. And I think Trey Amos is a fantastic corner. He is very physical for his size, always at the catch point, and I just love that about his game. The Vegas Raiders at 37. I'm forgetting the connection, but I do know, I think it might have been the running backs coach for the Raiders, or I mean for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Like, I think they're right now on the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, I should probably check that, but at the same time, if that's the case, I mean, I'm going all day Quinshon Judkins here, right? I mean, like, you need a power back. He actually is a fantastic back as well. And I mean, there is the chance that it ends up working out this way. But I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Shout out to my boy Ben Benson on X. And he's the GOAT, man. He's ended up talking to me a lot. So, it's Notre Dame running backs coach. My bad. I thought it was the Ohio State running backs coach. So it's a Notre Dame running backs coach that's on the team. That does kind of change my mind because maybe he doesn't want to give up that Quinshon is worth it. But I do think actually Cam Scatterbo is more likely a style of running back that would work on the Raiders because very similar in terms of run style to Marshawn Lynch. So I take my comment back. I take it back. We went after Will Johnson in the first. I think wide receiver is super key at this point. Cornerback, we already addressed. I'm not going to go edge, even though I think edge is perfectly fine. Io Maynor, in terms of his blocking, is great. Jaden Higgins, I think, is extremely underrated, and I don't know why people are against him. Like, I don't really get that. People are saying, like, oh, well, like, maybe he's a top 50 pick. He was the best receiver there in Mobile. I mean, he cooked every corner, and he is right now number 36 overall on my board. And I think he's going to continue rising. I mean, that's not fully updated for the Senior Bowl. There are guys who are getting, like, progressively updated into these roles. So, you know what? I'm going to go Jaden Higgins. A lot of people might want Io Maynor more, but I think Higgins is phenomenal, and it provides an X-build receiver who has a lot of the technical savvy that you're looking for. I don't know why. If he runs like sub 4.5, we're talking about Nico Collins here. I love him to death. He was a top 10 player for me coming into the year. I thought that he lost a little bit of his route manipulation, but he might be jumping up into the top 15 again after his Senior Bowl performance. He did a great job. At 38 for the New England Patriots, we went Travis Hunter in the first. I'm actually going to go after a player who I have a lot of faith in. I love Wyatt Milam, but I'm going after a left tackle here. Arianti Urzuri, first off, I don't know why, but the person who took a picture of me in Urzuri took it from above, so it makes me look like even more of a midget. But you got Hunter as a prime asset. I think you need to fix that tackle spot. And Urzuri actually showed a lot of promise there in Mobile. Maybe not day one impact type of guy, the way that you're kind of hoping for, but he's going to be a day one upgrade, which is huge. And like the last play versus Abdul Carter versus in that Penn State game, that was something that was so promising. It left on the perfect note where he actually played phenomenally well. He might have to play guard in the short run, but this team is definitely not one who would need to shy away from taking him in that role. Urzuri goes to New England. At 39 for the Chicago Bears, I'm looking at Kenneth Grant and saying, why the hell not? We got Genty so far. I mean, like, shoot. Like, this is kind of ideal, right? Like, this is pretty damn nice. I love Kenneth Grant, but he could definitely fall. It's not out of the realm of possibility for him to fall. Like, this is not a far stretch, okay? Kenneth Grant's a great player, great motor, great build, but this is within a realistic range for him. And so we'll take him for the Bears because you're getting yourself, a Michigan guy for a Michigan coach. But on top of that, you pair him up with Gervin Dexter, and you have two athletic freaks at defensive interior as they continue growing and developing. I think that's a huge win. You have Ashton Genty helping out the offense, and at 41, I already know we're going to go after some offensive line help. We're going to get an edge player as well. I'm super hyped for that. At number 40 for the Saints, would have been nice to get Kenneth Grant, wouldn't it? But we got Tyler Warren in the first. For those of y'all who didn't like that pick, please feel free to go back and listen to my explanation, because I do think that what I said actually does, like, I'm very happy with how it ended up turning out. I'm going to go after JT Tuimoloau here. Super high floor, great player, and just rock solid, man. Rock solid. And it provides a level of security on your defensive line for a player who I think should be going in the first. But right now, there's so many players who should be going in the first, it's hard to choose which ones don't, right? It's so good to see that the draft class really started polishing up at the end. For the Bears at 41, I'm happy with our tackle duo. We got Tyler Booker here. Call it a day. I mean, he's my number 11 player, 12 player in the class, 11 player in the class. He just has a little bit less flexibility. Ended up having a statistically down year just because PFF didn't grade him that well. It blows my mind. But Tyler Booker could go legitimately as high as 16 or 15. Like, I would not be surprised if he goes 13 for all I care. Like 10. He could go as high as 10. But again, this is realistic range because guards don't have that same value as those tackles. And we're in a class with a lot of tackle guard hybrids. So those will probably have a little bit more value than just a pure guard there in Tyler Booker. But this team needs a center, needs a guard, it needs an edge rusher. So that's what was needed at 41. I went after the best player available given all of those needs, and we'll be able to get an edge rusher for sure in round 3 because there's some good ones. At number 42 for the Jets, we went after Mason Graham in the first. Love it. I'm looking at Jahdae Barron here as just a flexible piece that you can use anywhere. I'm super happy with that option, but also I do think we need to start pushing Nick Eamon-Wari up the boards. A flexible safety at 6'3", 230 pounds, that's going to be pretty much lurking everywhere. I think that might be the guy to go after, but to be fair, Jahdae Barron is looked at in a higher regard, and I like the idea of being able to use him as a Swiss Army knife. This team's going to need it as well. Might play some boundary reps, some slot reps, some safety reps. Using him as a Swiss Army knife is going to be super key. Very smart player, good ball skills. I'm going to take him there at 42. 43 for the New York Giants. Ended up trading back and getting our 3rd round pick again. And I'm looking at Hairston here, and if Hairston's healthy, he's worth a potential 1st round pick. I mean, I thought Mel Kiper was a little bit nutso for not liking Hairston in that regard, but seeing Hairston healthy in person in Mobile, this guy is like a 1st round type of player. I don't think he ends up getting to that point, but for a mid-second, pairing him back up with Andrew Phillips, I think that's phenomenal. He was finally physical again. Like, he was corner 20-something for me, before the Senior Bowl, because over the entire year, he was dealing with some shoulder stuff, and he wasn't as physical. He wasn't 100% healthy, and shout out to him for playing through that. But, I mean, now he looks healthy, and he looks way better, and I don't blame people for having him as being a 1st. And you look at the corner class, I love Quincy Riley. He might be in like my next group of dudes who I'd consider. Like, Jalen Smith's finally added. Hallelujah. But I think Max Harrison's worth it. There is a big drop-off, so you might have to reach a little bit. But I'm looking at teams here like the Colts who would be looking at Hairston. You look right here at the Falcons who would also be looking at Hairston. Technically, you could even talk about the Cardinals. So this is the perfect range for me to take him, and we're going to go after Hairston while adding a 3rd round pick. At number 44 for the Dallas Cowboys, we traded back and ended up getting some extra draft capital, got Matt Golden as well. So we're sitting pretty. I think that right now, this is what y'all were actually really wanting, is going to be able to get a running back here. I love Caleb Johnson, but I think Quinshon Judkins is just a better back. That's a hot take. I love Quinshon Judkins to death. I like Caleb Johnson a lot, but I just love Quinshon Judkins coming off the best way to end his career, 3 touchdowns, being dominant in the Natty. And so I'm going to go after him. I think it's worth it. Just take a top end back right there and call it a day. 45, Colts moved up. Malachi Starks. Good spot to be in, man. Good spot to be in. And so I'm looking at the tight ends here. Arroyo technically had a little bit of a checkered injury history. You look at the amount of reps he's had. This is his 1st year, but he ended up really shining as a receiving weapon. I do think Harold Fannin should go before him. So if we're going to do that route, I think we should trade back. You got some great players here out. Ooh, hold up. EJ Speed's up for a contract. And to be fair, you guys are so good at sniping guys on day 3. That's like all your linebacker core is day 3 dudes that you sniped. Oh, it kicks me in the nuts a little bit to not take Jihad Campbell. I love Jihad to death. I think that, I need to potentially move up with the team to select him. Like, no, there's just not a team that I think would do it. I mean, technically, the Falcons could. The Falcons are a team that definitely could try to target him, but that's a problem. When some of these players start falling, these teams have already addressed particular needs with value. You look at Ezraku here as well, Jack Sawyer. You're talking about legitimate, solid edge rushers. Boundary corner-wise, we've already kind of taken the guys off the board. So I really do think the tight ends need to be in the equation here. And I don't know why there's this negative stigma on Harold Fannin. He's up to 238, so he's 240, and he's a solid blocker. I don't get that. He is a solid blocker, and he is a ridiculously reliable tight end. I mean, 55% contested catch rate at Bowling Green when he was the primary target is kind of nutso. I'm going to push these tight ends higher. I think they deserve it. So we're going to go after Harold Fannin here. I don't know why people think all of a sudden Harold Fannin's not good. It shows that unfortunately the toxic media tries to, they're lurking and they're leeching into you guys. Don't let it happen. Harold Phantom was very, very good. And then at 46, you got the Falcons. Went Jalen Walker in the first, which I think his role should be a linebacker. I'm looking at Jack Sawyer here. I'm saying, why not? I mean, you get yourself super high floor, great motor, and he can end up playing stand-up as well. I love the flexibility that you have with him. I think just the value is too good. I could have went after Iomaner here, but I think Jack Sawyer is just that type of guy you want in your locker room, especially if you're Raheem Morris and getting yourself some consistency there at the edge room. And you can also use him in combination with Jalen Walker. So going to have that duo there. At 47 for the Cardinals, went after Micah Green in the first. And here, this is an easy one. We're running to the podium with this. You got Harmon, you got Alexander. We're going to go after Derek Harmon out of Oregon. I mean, just super young, very, very, very productive this past year. You know, someone who could easily go in the first. It's tough to just like decide which guy is going to fall because it's not because they're bad. It's just because they're falling. Walter Nolan was the selection in the first four of the Miami Dolphins. And so I'm going to be looking at interior offensive line here. I love Wyatt Milam, but I also do know safety is a position you can address. And Nicky Manwari, I think you got to go after offensive line. You guys have drafted offensive line so many times in the second. I do think Wyatt Milam did have a pretty rough outing at the Senior Bowl. He looked a bit more uncomfortable on the interior of the offensive line. He has dropped down to 40 on my big board, but he's still damn good. Like, he is still really, really good. So I do think that we can go after Wyatt Milam here and end up selecting him at your guard spot. So you fix both the interior of the defensive and offensive line, respectively. At 49 for the Bengals, took Will Campbell in the first. I'm running this one to the podium. It is Nicky Manwari. He's going to be the center fielder there and be the Jesse Bates for lose. Oh, I'm tripping balls. Lose now on Indy. But to be fair, you guys still don't have a center fielder that Nicky Manwari could provide. I think that's the right move. Yeah. He's the best player available. He should be a first-round pick. You know, just somebody who continues falling because how many safeties are going to go. So I'm honestly perfectly fine with it. Nicky Manwari, the choice there. At 50, we have the Seattle Seahawks, and you guys moved up to selected Josh Simmons. Guard in the short run, tackle in the long. Like, I think that boundary corner, if one were available, would be good for you guys at this point. Honestly, I think that Jahad Campbell's the best choice here. You guys like using flexible pieces. Jahad Campbell's a great linebacker and the #1 edge rusher from his high school class. He is sitting right now at 16th overall on my big board, and so I'm going to be taking him here to you guys at 50. 51 for the Buccaneers, Michael Williams, first-round selection. Love it. And technically, again, it's a reason why you can end up passing on edge in round 1 because you do have a lot of really good players here. Corner is not really valuable enough for me to take at this moment. Oh, Jordan Burch is someone who I'm absolutely sending to the Ravens, by the way. Like, that's his floor. I need to send him to the Ravens, but that's beside the point. I do think this team is in the market for a receiver. With Iomaner available, I don't think that you could pass up on him. 6'2", 215. Reliable receiver there that produced even in a very unproductive offense for Stanford. I'm going to go after him at 51. 52, Denver Broncos. End up going to Marion Hampton in the first round. And tight end is absolutely available here. So is safety. And you got Xavier Watts here, and his ball skills are just ridiculous. Technically speaking, you know what? If you guys want to, we're going Xavier Watts. By the way, Bengals fans, if you really want to, swap the two. Just swap the two. I'm perfectly happy with either of them. So if you want Nicky Manwari to the Broncos, it makes a ton of sense. If you want Xavier Watts going back with Al Golden, like, makes a ton of sense. In retrospect, probably should have done that, but have it whatever way you like, because it wouldn't have changed actually the outcome. Both those guys are going at those picks respectively. 53 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We have a good amount of picks right here. 53, 66, 85. We moved back and selected Darian Porter at 32. We need receiver. And Jalen Royals is available. I am calling that all day. He was saying he was playing at 80%, and he was still generating extreme separation. Very smooth athlete, great after the catch. Definitely somebody who I have as a dream pick for the Steelers there. 54 for the Los Angeles Chargers. We went interior offensive line with Gray Zabel. At this point, you could go after Donovan Zirawaku, and I don't really blame you if you want to do that. Running back-wise, we can go after Caleb Johnson right now and get a power back, and honestly, I would like it. I wouldn't mind that at all. But I also think that you guys could snipe somebody at 86 and be perfectly happy. Wide receiver, we depleted the guys in round 2. I like Jack Besh a lot. Would not be a bad choice for Los Angeles at all, but I just don't really think that with the respective needs that would be the right move. Speaking of the tight ends, Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor, those are two of the guys who I am considering at this point. Arroyo, certainly an interesting option, but apart from maybe the Commanders and Eagles, I don't really see it being a pressing issue. We could try to trade back, get a couple more picks with some great players like Ezraku on the board. Because I know that the Packers are sitting here at 55. Who did they pick at the first? They picked Shedeur Sanders. So I doubt they'll go after edge rusher and then end up giving their DC back their former player in Ezraku. So I doubt that would be the case. But a team like the Bills absolutely should be wanting to move up for Ezraku. I could also see right now the Panthers who ended up taking a corner round 1, could be extremely interested in moving up for Ezraku, but they also could just stay put, right? Like you could end up staying put and then getting like Oluwafemi, Oladejo, Braden Swinson. Y'all know how much I love Braden Swinson. Y'all know it. He ended up dropping a little bit because, again, I don't know what's up with him missing the shrine, but I honestly feel perfectly happy with not spending extra draft capital for the Panthers. But you also talk about right now with the Ravens, and like the Ravens might be able to get their Calais Campbell type of dude back. And I am a little bit worried that the Bills might try to get someone who's a flexible defensive interior weapon. So if I'm the Chargers, I'm going to talk to the Ravens. Like, let's see, what do they have to offer me? And they actually have a good amount of picks here. And I could totally see a recomp, like where they essentially send 127 and we send back like 159. Like you essentially move back 5 spots and move up 30. That could be certainly an option. Or like they send 135 and for 159. I think that's fair. I think that's perfectly reasonable. So we're going to make that happen. 159, 54 for 59 and 135. Kind of doing a little pick swapper Rooney there. The Ravens have moved up, and this guy's going to test off the charts for being 290. It's Jordan Birch. Jordan Birch is so damn good, dude. I mean, I just don't know why he's gone so under the radar, because he went under the radar for me. And he's sitting right now like 63, 64. I have 2 TJ Sanders here. Lamau. But I need to edit that. But he's number 60 on my board. I love him to death. Again, there are guys here that did not, that are not fully updated for the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl, respectively. But it is what it is. Packers, we've got Shamar Stewart in round number 1. Of course, Ezraku is here, so that does kind of get my little feathers ruffled, so to speak. I think this is a good spot to trade back, because I think Quincy Riley is the guy who I want for this team. Another Louisville corner. And I'm not really seeing teams that are going to be lurking for that corner spot, maybe until 64. So for Ezraku, is there a team that should be getting aggressive here? Again, you got the Bills who are next. I'm not going to have the Bills trade up for it. But let's see, what did we do with the Lions? I think we ended up going after a really good edge rusher for the Lions and Nick Scorton. Yeah, they're going to be chilling. I ain't moving up for him with that. The Eagles already ended up getting their guy, not having them move up at all. Kind of slim pickings, ain't it? Shoot. I mean, the Commanders are the team that I would say could be the most ballsy, because they might want to move up and select their top edge rusher based on the fact that we're going to have some dudes slip, but not enough of them to where it would be worth it at that spot. And you know what? I actually don't mind that at all. The Commanders need to get a little bit aggressive, right? They have some picks. Let's do a pick recomp as well. So we'll go 147. And then, what we could do is 79, 147 for 87 and 160. I think that's fair. I think that's perfectly fair, because you end up moving up 6 spots. You move back 8 there, and then you move back 13. I think that's awesome. I think that's a really good move. Both teams keep the same quantity of picks, but Green Bay upgrades in every aspect. Washington downgrades, but you end up moving up and taking your top tier edge rusher here and Donovan Ezraku, because you have multiple teams that are going to be going after edge. I think that's totally worth it. Buffalo Bills 56 ended up going after Tyleik Williams. Would have been nice to go after Ezraku at this pick, but not the case. So another edge rusher that I would like to go. Oh, I did kind of like screw myself over, didn't I? I love Braden Swinson. Now, you guys know this. He's my number 6 player in the class. And I don't know why he didn't show up to the Shrine Bowl. Zero clue. But he has, when you're looking at the players that are notable in this draft class, You talk about pass rush win rate. Swinson's there. Like, he might only have 22.1 on a standard basis, which only 22.1, that is on the level of a lot of guys who are going in the first. But true pass rush win rate, he has a better true pass rush win rate than my favorite edge in the class, and that is James Pierce. Just saying. And he is right under Abdul Carter for true pass rush win rate. So, just saying, he is among the best of the best. I'm going to give him the love here. We're going to go Braden Swinson to the Bills. 57, Texans. Winnameka Ibuka round 1. And we need to go interior offensive line. Jonah Savania is perfect because you can kick him to tackle if need be, but I think he's really good on the interior. So I'm actually really happy with this. Jonah Savania looked a lot better at guard, and some people even project him to center. So you're getting a player with a ton of potential, really solid feet. Needs to work on that anchor big time, which is surprising for his size, but I really do like the potential that you have there with Savania. At number 58 for the Panthers went Ben Morrison in round 1. Ruffled some feathers, and that's okay. I respect the honesty from you guys. Edge rusher is super key, but I don't really see anybody being worth it here. We do have some guys I'd feel happy taking at 74. Princely had a pretty down week. I didn't really like how Kyle Kennard played, so I feel perfectly fine kicking the can down the road and going after a more valuable player on the defensive interior. And I'm looking at Omar Norman Lott here, who had a fantastic week. He's 295, but he's 6'3", and he is a punchy dude. He has a great push on the pocket. Darius Alexander, far from a slouch himself. We're going to be going after Omar Norman Lott there. Technically, TJ Sanders would be the more likely option, but I'm going to go after the player who I think is better in Omar Norman Lott. Then we have the Chargers traded back Gray Zabel, and we're going to rush this to the podium. We're going to go Caleb Johnson. I talked about sniping dudes on day 3 at running back, but sometimes the value is just too good. At number 60 for the Detroit Lions went Nick Scordon in round number 1. And here, honestly, I actually really like this because I think you need a legitimate possession receiver. Jack Besh. I mean, ridiculous hands. This dude has a great story as well. I mean, it's more so recent. His brother, unfortunately, was one of the victims and passed away from the New Orleans terror attack. So I do think that, first off, it complements the receiving core. But second off, talk about a dude who has a relentless motor. Ended off the game, the Senior Bowl as well, with this game-winning touchdown. Like, what a story. And you get to bring him to a great organization that values players who have that great motor, have that great locker room presence. And, he's built to be an NFC North kind of receiver too. I really like that. And you take him away from the Green Bay Packers because that was kind of a player I wanted to go with. But we're back with Green Bay. And, I also think that wide receiver certainly is on the short list of items for us to a draft here. But I'm going to be honest, not really ready to do that. I will look at the corners, though, and I was talking about Quincy Riley. That's a player I really want here. Great ball skills, very high IQ. He's going to test through the roof. He's been dealing with an injury all year long. Got to meet his uncle on the plane back, and so shout out to Marlon. We're going to be taking Quincy Riley here in the second because I think he's going to be a big riser. At number 62 for the Buffalo Bills, I ended up taking Tylee Williams, Braden Swinson. This is, I feel like safety is the next route for us to go with Lathan Ransom. We got ourselves pretty much exactly what we needed. Let's see what else we can get. So you can get another edge rusher if you want to, like Kyle Kennard, taking the good value. You could try to bolster the defensive line even more. Like, I could trade out of this spot, though, because we don't have the 3rd round pick. And, I'm seeing the Chiefs here, and they're probably going to take a running back. Like, I would really like the Chiefs to go after Cam Scatabo. And I like the Raiders. I like the Raiders in this situation, and we're going to be moving up with them. We're going to be doing it. So to move back 8 spots, I'm actually going to probably send pick 143, and that's too cheap. That is too cheap, isn't it? I'm going to be a cheap ass, aren't I? 106, I think 130, and we toss in 180. Maybe 214. Yeah, we'll toss in 214. 68, 106. 68, 106 for 62, 130. I think that's a fine deal. We're going to offer it. The Bills end up moving up literally 24 spots. I think that's perfectly okay. The Vegas Raiders have moved up. You got Will Johnson, Jaden Higgins, and now you get your Cam Scatabo and call him your Marshawn Lynch, if you will. And you take him again away from a team in the Chiefs that I think would be a great contender for that. Eagles ended up doing a massive blockbuster trade, got Myles Garrett. And at this spot, I'm going to be replacing Milton Williams. TJ Sanders is a great choice, but Darius Alexander, the former teammate of Quinn Mitchell, bring him back. Bring him back, baby. And he takes edge reps, so you're pretty much replacing BG at the same time. Talk about a relentless defensive front. Just like call it a day at that point. You don't want to face this defensive line ever. Kansas City moved up for Colston Loveland. Might ruffle some feathers too, but that's okay. I already described why I did it. And so defensive line, going to be my next priority. With TJ Sanders here, you got Dalen Walker, Alfred Collins. I mean, talk about a group of dudes, 100% talent, 100% of the time. I'm going to go with TJ Sanders because I think it's the most likely. He's a gap penetrator, at that 290 frame, but he is strong. He is a strong dude. To be fair, outside of that, let's see, maybe there's another option. Could go Kyle Kennard if we wanted to. Could go Savion Williams, unique build for a back his size. Could go Trey Henderson as well for a home run hitter. I think we might get another home run hitter if we wait. I don't know if we're going to get another player of the talent level with TJ Sanders if we do. At 65 for the Tennessee Titans via that New York Giants trade, we got Shedeur Sanders, Armand Membu. Talk about a good group of guys, man. That is solid. I really like that. You could talk about Savion Williams here in terms of the after catch ability. You talk about the big contested catch threat as well. Like it's going to kind of replace that DeAndre Hopkins role. And I think that'll be a good one. I mean, it's a free pick as well. Kind of just send it in on your guy. So not a bad choice. Not a bad choice. Honestly, I quite like it. You could try to go interior offensive line at this point. But again, like if you go Belton as well as Bembu, you might get two guys who are tackle guard hybrids. Might have a little bit of a clash there. Yeah, let's go after something that I think is a little bit more popular in terms of probability, and that's Savion Williams, because not many guys at 6'5" have the after the catch ability and have the contested catch prowess that Savion does. I'm not a super big Savion guy, but again, I try to blend my board with realism and try to give you guys a well-balanced approach to the draft. At 66 for the Steelers, we got Porter, we got Royals, and this is essentially a free pick via moving back for said player. I think defensive interior could absolutely be on the radar, but I do think we also could wait to take someone like CJ West in the 4th and be perfectly fine on that front. So other positions where we could look at, quarterback 100% is on the board right here. You got Will Howard, who I think would be a very, very good addition. It's another player that I think the Raiders should be trying to potentially move up for. And low-key, not a bad idea with another Ohio team right there. Because I don't think the Steelers need to be taking a QB at the moment, because I just doubt that we have the balls to do that. Like, I just don't think we do. So that is straight espresso, by the way, which is why I might pucker a little bit. I love drinking straight espresso. I'm gonna get ballsy with the Raiders, man. I know that it's a little bit crazy, but we're gonna get ballsy here. And I like to do that every once in a while. I think Pittsburgh, honestly, for a 7 spot drop, I'd be happy taking pick 180. Like, you could go 143. 143 is more realistic for that big of a drop. I think that's fair. Because you guys still have that pick 130, so you guys did not actually lose value or lose the quantity of picks. And the Steelers could use that 143 spot right there. I like that. And the Vegas Raiders have moved up for their quarterback to join Chip Kelly. Oh, man, look at this. Will Johnson, Jaden Higgins, Cam Scatterbo, and then we're going Will Howard. Talk about a killer draft right there. You went up, you got your guys, and they're all great fits as well for the coaching staff. I freaking love this Raiders mock. At number 67, we got the Cleveland Browns, Abdul Carter, Josh Connerly, Azareye'h Thomas. God, I love it. I love it. And we're going to look at running back here because we got a lot of key pieces, but Trey Henderson, man, having somebody who could be a home run hitter with this much talent, it's hard to find here at 67. I think that's the right move. We're going to go Trey Henderson to the Browns and just continue adding superpower weaponry all around. At 68 for the Buffalo Bills, we move back, and, I honestly don't regret it at all. I got Tyleik Williams and Braden Swinson. I was talking about going after a defensive back, and I think Lathan Ransom, when healthy, is the best safety in the class. Especially within, in the red zone. This dude is a red zone monster. Like a red zone monster. Okay, we'll casually just don't do anything. There we go. So, this guy is fantastic. I mean, legitimately fantastic. One of the best processors in short space that I've seen, and I think that he's going to be a stud, but people just have those medical concerns about him, which is why he slips more than he should. At number 69, the Patriots have a very nice pick. You got Hunter, you got Ursary, and we could look at receiver for someone to be a little bit more of a possession guy. You look at Trey Harris right there. It's possible. This is not a good good wide receiver class. I'll just say that. I love Ja'Cory Brooks, but you also, if you want to have a receiver like that, there are plenty of them in this class. I mean, you talk about Dante Thornton Jr., who I think is a dream Packers weapon. But, I mean, looking at other positions of need, we could try to get, I wish Trey Henderson were available. That would be my pick off the bat. But we also do need to get an edge rusher, right? We went after Hunter and Ursary, and the value is right here. I think Umamielen had a fantastic year. He just had a pretty poor Senior Bowl. We're going to have him taken at 69. Number 70, Jaguars. Tetero McMillan, Trey Amos, the biggest positions to address. We're going to look at the offensive line now, and Marcus Bowe is perfect because he's shown the ability to play guard, play center, but also Anthony Belton might have earned himself some good money. Like, this dude is such a savage, and I honestly say I'm not going to go that route because I think he can play a legitimate tackle. I want somebody who is going to be an asset right away as a guard or a center, and that's what Marcus Bowe is going to be out of Purdue. He looked a bit lost at tackle, but ended up having some really solid reps at interior offensive line, which is exactly the role he's going to play. 71, New Orleans Saints, Tyler Warren, JT Tuimoloau, honestly just a strong, dynamic duo. Looking at the defensive interiors that are left, Alfred Collins is not a bad one. Neither is Deone Walker. So you guys are in a good spot. You could look at QB if you wanted to, but again, no need to. I do love Carson Schwezinger. I want him to come off the board sometime soon. Boundary corner-wise, because Paulson Adebo's up, I will say, also kind of slim pickings in this range. Like, I have some guys that I do like. I'm going to look at my board to see exactly. Like, Jermari Harris, he's going to be dropping a little bit, but, I don't think he's going to be a great... He's going to be a later day 2 to day 3 kind of dude, and also didn't really practice. He ended up having 1 day of practice and ended up dipping. And I will say, not the nicest person from my experiences with him, but let's just leave that off the table. That's a story for a live stream where you guys can't just continuously scroll back to it. But right tackle as well. Honestly, Anthony Belton could play guard or tackle for you guys. This is a dark horse position. Because Anthony Belton actually had some really solid reps at right tackle in the Senior Bowl for the amount of experience he has there. He got kicked out of one game because he spit on some dude versus Clemson. But this dude's a road grader, and he did phenomenally well. And especially at that guard role, he did really, really well. I'm going to go Anthony Belton at 71. How about that? 72, we got the Bears. Genty, Grant, Booker. Let's get an edge and call it a day, right? Why not? You got Kyle Kennard, Landon Jackson, Josiah Stewart here. David Walker, for all I care. Antoine Powell-Ryland, who I absolutely adore. I do think that Kyle Kennard will go before APR, and Kyle Kennard is a very good edge rusher. Don't get me wrong. This is very good value for him. So we're going to do that and wrap up the Bears draft there. 73 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We did do a trade back again, and we got Porter, we got Rolls, and at this point, we can kind of just sit pretty and, select whatever we want, which is good. It's a very good place for us to be in. We could also get a flexible defensive back piece. I know our slot, people were talking about Barron. I think Sebastian Castro could absolutely be a baller Steeler. I love him. He's still a first-round player to me, but just people don't have that faith in him. He also has 10-inch hands at 5'10". Ridiculous. Stud. Love him. But running back as well. You're looking at Devin Neal here. I think that's certainly something that I would like to entertain. Jordan James as well. It's a good running back class, but I will say it's a lot more underwhelming than what people want to give it credit for. A lot more underwhelming. Linebacker we could take. That's another position. It's tough to always draft for my Steelers. But defensive interior at this point, I think if we want to replace Cam Hayward, we can roll the dice on somebody to truly develop as a pure defensive interior, and that's Deone Walker. We have the great mentorship to make it work. Make Pittsburgh great again. Let's go, Deone Walker. It's a free pick as well, you think about it. So we got our wide receiver, defensive interior, as well as boundary corner. At number 74 for the Carolina Panthers, you got Ben Morrison, Omar Norman Lott. Hell, Can you complain about the edge rushers here? I can't. I mean, Landon Jackson, at this point, great value. Jared Ivey, Josiah Stewart, Kyman Rucker, Quay Robinson, I mean, Ashton Gillette, David Walker. I mean, like, you're getting great value here. But the guy who I'm going to throw a curveball for is Femi Oladejo. This dude was arguably the best player at the Senior Bowl. Like, this guy was ridiculous. He was pure power. He was an absolute monster. I'm going to go after Femi Oladejo out of UCLA. Just go and watch his tape in the Senior Bowl, and then before you try to complain and make yourself look a little bit foolish, because he is awesome. Niners, I heard you guys are working on a deal to be able to get George Kittle back, so it's good to see tight end not going to be an issue. But this is the perfect opportunity to be able to replace Dre Greenlaw potentially for the long run, or at least get a Sam linebacker, not Greenlaw replacement, but a Sam linebacker for the long run, and Carson Schwezinger, former Oaks Christian Lion. We actually ended up going to the same high school. This dude is an athletic freak, and so I'm going to give him the shot that he deserves. 76, Cowboys, Quinshon Judkins, Matt Golden. Killer duo. I love it. And at this point, honestly, you could develop Cam Williams for a year. I would not be against it. Emory Jones at guard, wouldn't be against it. So honestly, you guys are in a dark horse spot here to get Elijah Arroyo as well. Arroyo does have that injury concern, so that's why he's slipping a little bit here. He did have some injury bugs from beforehand that could make him slip a little bit more than what's expected. But on top of that, Arroyo is an underrated blocker. I would say Ferguson would be the better blocker of the bunch. And so maybe Ferguson would be someone that you want. I mean, also, you already have a Ferguson, so it would kind of make sense for you guys to go after another one, wouldn't it? You also could go wide receiver, though. At this point, you could double up. I mean, go Matt Golden and go Isaiah Bond. I already know people are going to bitch about that, though. people are going to find anything to complain about. That's a humankind for you right there. But you also have Cam Williams here that I do think should be considered an option for certain teams. Oof. I mean, we could just roll the dice on the high-end talent right there. It would not be a bad idea. But I do think trading back would be the best option. I'm trying to see if there's a team that might want to move up for Cam Williams. Again, another team that could be looking for that long-term option there in the Cardinals. That would not be a bad idea. Like, he's the last tackle that you will probably be able to get. Again, you got Emory Jones, which, take it or leave it with Emory. That's it is what it is. But I've already kind of jumped on once with the Seahawks. No need to do that. I'm not seeing anybody trying to move up for Cam Williams. Landon Jackson, don't really see anybody getting too desperate for that. This is the part of the draft where it's like, you could always wait. I'm going to go after best player available. And that's between Arroyo and Bond. And both of them have their injury concerns. But honestly, this team needs more firepower. Fuck it. Let's get Isaiah Bond, let's get Matt Golden, his former teammate, Isaiah Bond. Also a boundary receiver. Talk about that speed. And like once he's back to 100% health, this dude is a 1,000-yard NFL receiver, in my opinion. He ended up coming out. He's a Texas boy. So he's going to be, talk about that. Isaiah Bond, Matt Golden, as well as Quinshon Judkins. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Ridiculous firepower. Patriots, we got Umamielen, we got Ursary, we got Hunter. Now, let's see if we can get a reliable boundary weapon. This could be where Trey Harris goes, but I do kind of want Pat Bryant to be the 4th-round pick for this team. Jim DK is also great. Efton Chisholm's such a baller. Ricky White, awesome, but Ricky did not look the same type of guy who I knew Ricky to be. I'll just put it that way. But Cam Williams could just be worth the investment at this point. Like, you're sitting pretty to where you can just kind of go wherever you want. But I will say, Alfred Collins is a good bet. Christian Barmore's been unreliably healthy. This dude's just super high floor. Let's go after Alfred Collins. At 78 for the Arizona Cardinals, Alfred Collins would have been nice to pair up with Derek Harmon, but we've addressed the defensive line twice, and at this point, why not take the swing on Cam Williams? The potential when healthy is absolutely there. Let's take the shot and see if he can end up working out. At 78, these are no longer spot picks that you can really whiff on. These are dart throws, and it's definitely worth throwing a dart at Cam Williams. There's some ASMR for you. At number 79, we got the Packers. Packers, we've had a solid draft, man. Shamar Stewart, Quincy Riley, kind of the more potential guys. But I do think that wide receiver also should be on the radar. Jalen Knowles, 5'9". I mean, shoot, man. Like this wide receiver draft is just not great. It is not. I love LeJontay Wester. Him and Restrepo would be the next guys I'd take, but neither of which I'd want for the Packers specifically. We've gone corner and edge. I actually might go for center at this point with Jared Wilson. Like, Jared Wilson is truly loved by a ton of people as a day 2 pick, and it's my fault. I haven't fully graded Jared Wilson yet, but I like what I saw. I'm going to go after someone who could be that true center for you guys in the long run. At number 80 for the Indianapolis Colts, we've gone after Starks and a Fannin. And technically, yeah, we could have waited and ended up getting Elijah Arroyo here, but there was no chance, there was no guarantee of that at all. I'm happy with our decision. I think a boundary corner absolutely should still be on the radar here. You're talking about guys like Jason Marshall, who's solid, Denzel Burke, who just coming off a pretty down year, but ended up really bouncing back. Shamari Simmons is like a safety. I love Jabbar Muhammad, but I mean, he's also going to be a slot. Has some short-ass legs, too. I got to drop his grade for that. I love Jalen Smith. I mean, Jalen Smith's so good. He's going to be a friend of the show, too. I already know. We've already texted back and forth. Good dude. Noel Williams is going to be, like, a top target for the Colts, in my opinion, as well. But at this point, you might as well go after Landon Jackson or a linebacker. But again, I also think this team has a pride in taking a linebacker later. We're going to go after Landon Jackson, go after best player available. He ended up not having the type of Senior Bowl that I think people think he had. I don't know why there's a delusion around Landon Jackson. He is a good player, but we're in a very deep edge class, and he did not shine the way that people are trying to say he did. I wish it were true, but it's just not. But for the Bengals, I want to put this out here. We have Will Campbell and Nick Eamon-Warry, but it could be Xavier Watts. You can swap it with the Broncos. Honestly, deep down, I would swap it with the Broncos. So the Broncos got Watts. You can give him Eamon-Warry. It does not matter. It does not matter to me. But Al Golden got his safety, whether it's going to be Eamon-Warry or Watts. Both of them are fantastic. I don't care. Like, it's a good group. So we got our offensive line fixed. I think edge could be next. And you got Gillette here, who I think is super solid. But man, I love Antoine Powell-Ryland. I don't know what's up with the negative Antoine Powell-Ryland era. Like, people just don't love him. But I mean, this dude is legitimately in his worst game surprising to me, and he is awesome. And he's someone who's extremely fast, great speed of power, great spin move, like great body control. I'm going to go after him here. APR going to Cincy. Number 82, Cincinnati Bengals. We got Jahad Campbell, Josh Simmons. Really good group. And I could totally see us going after a defensive back here. You got Kevin Winston, who has some good range. Jonas Sanker stood out to me. Upton Stout's such a baller, but he even played some boundary corner. So, I mean, he's too short. You don't want to have too many guys who lack that size in your room. So I would say defensive interior is possible. JJ Peggy's is a super fun one. Like, and CJ West as well. Junior Tafuna is very good. Like, there's some very good defensive interiors that are in this later, in this day 3 range, to where you don't need to force that. Going after another edge rusher where you're going to just take kind of like a freak guy who could kick to the interior, like Ashton Gillette. Not a bad idea. Jared Ivey. Like, good players all around. Like, really good players. I don't think that you can go wrong here. Jalen Rivers could be a guard, or Emory Jones. Emory Jones might be worth it. I know we already drafted a tackle, but we could honestly fix multiple guard spots. Just saying. And both of them have that right tackle versatility. You know what? We could just totally retool the offensive line. Let's retool it. Emory Jones. I don't know why he's rated that lowly. He was one of the better offensive linemen there in the Senior Bowl, and to the point where people thought he could end up being a true right tackle. So again, now you have two guys. I think Emory's going to be the pure guard. Long-term vision for Simmons is that right tackle spot. But regardless, you have yourself a ridiculously solid offensive line nonetheless. 83 Buccaneers. We got Mikael Williams and Io Maynor. Good group of dudes. I think right now we're going to look at that linebacker spot. And Bossa and Kaiser are probably the next up. Kaiser's sub 230. That's his problem. I think he was like 228. Like, I love Kaiser. Like, love him. He's 34 on my board, but again, that's not fully updated for the Senior Bowl with the weight and everything. It's like, it is a little bit low, but I mean, I'm going to be honest. I really like him. Jeffrey Bossa ended up running 21 miles per hour, just under 21 at the Senior Bowl. Former safety, really, really good player. You can't go wrong here, which is why I might say kick the can down the road with Kaiser. Demetrius Knight is fun. I don't think he's as high as what PFF or what Trev thinks he is, but he's a fun player nonetheless too. Looking at his weight, 245, like, he's a good player, big hitter as well. Again, we already went Io Maynor. Could even go Restrepo and say, fuck it, let's ball out. But I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can do that. You know what? Elijah Arroyo's here too. I love him. But we're going to go Jeffrey Bossa out of Oregon. Well, I think a former safety that has that flexibility at linebacker. You know, you're talking about similar body types to Kaiser and him. I like that move. Broncos, Watts, Hampton, Arroyo. Call it a day. Call it a day. Did not expect for him to slip this far, but he did. Call it a day, man. I mean, talk about a killer trio. And then again, rather than Watts, it could be Eamon Wari, but regardless, you got yourself a killer trio right there. Steelers, Deon Walker, Jalen Royals, Darian Porter. Killer group, man. Killer group. You can go Dylan Sampson here if you want. I do think we could bring back our running backs if we want to. It's not really a desperation move. We got our boundary receiver. Running back wise, I think Devin Neal honestly is super duper solid at this point. Like, you can't really go wrong with him. But Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, he's the dude who I think is going to be an absolute steal on day 3. And I feel like the Steelers are the team to draft him. I don't know why, but I think that's true. Trevor Etienne showed off at the Senior Bowl as well. So I don't really think we need to spend that pick on him if we don't need to. And instead, I actually might go for the best defensive player available. And to me, that's Sebastian Castro. I mean, he might have had a worse grade than he did the year before, but I watched him this year. And honestly, I would just put him in more situations that he just shouldn't have been in than, like, his talent level is ridiculous. Again, 10-inch hands. I mean, ridiculous for his height as well. At 5'11". I think he was 5'10". But, you know, he's a big hitter, super duper high IQ. Looks good in black and gold. I'm going to take him. I love Sebastian Castro. So we end up ending our Steelers draft with Sebastian Castro, Deon Walker, Darian Porter, as well as Jalen Rolls. At number 86 for the Chargers, Zabel Johnson. And with Zabel and Johnson, I might just go full Mason Taylor at this point. Just go full offense because I think the value is there. We might need to address the defense. I can't let Josiah Stewart not go to his former DC. We're going to go Josiah Stewart here. I think it makes sense. 87 for the Commanders. We traded up to get Donovan Zarawaku. I love that. We got Luther Burden as well. And corner-wise, again, this is the sucky part of the draft. I am hoping to see Jermari Harris have his name on Trev's board soon just to see what Trev thinks about him. But tackle-wise, John Williams is fun. Jack Nelson, again, not a fan of the fact that he's not out and about. But Johnny Cornelius is the one that I really like to play that guard role while Cosme ends up healing from that injury. And then he can end up kicking out to be the future right tackle. I thought he was like pretty much a borderline right tackle with some key losses from wide 9. But I think he's a high-end starting guard. I really like what he brings to the table, and I think he's going to get drafted earlier than what people think. He's a seasoned veteran that is a really good player. Ended up having a struggle year this year, but I really like how he ends up projecting to guard in the short run and ends up being a formidable swing tackle in the long. Number 88 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Marcus Bowe, Amos, and McMillan. Kind of just everything that you're looking for in terms of, just filling in needs with value. You got Jordan Phillips here as well as, again, Aeneas Peoples is fun. I would say CJ West should be next in line at this spot. That would be where I'd be looking. But I also think that you could just go full gung-ho and actually, you're not going to trade away. I don't think actually, no, you guys aren't going to trade away Christian Kirk because you guys have now too many people on your roster that were with Christian Kirk. So I was saying Xavier Restrepo, but the Rams could be trading him away. And honestly, the Steelers wouldn't be a bad spot to trade with the Rams, but that's a conversation for then. I do think defensive back still is something you could go after. And honestly, with Andrew Makuba and Kevin Winston on the board, hard to say no to either of them. I'm actually going to go after the flexible piece here in Andrew Makuba out of Texas. 89, Houston Texans, Emeka Buka, Jonas Savania, like kind of filling in the guard as well as the receiver role. Defensive interior, I've already talked about it a billion times. I don't like the value here necessarily, so let's look elsewhere. Interior offensive line, I honestly think Tate Ratledge could also pair up there. I think the whole entire interior offensive line needs to be reworked. So I don't think it's out of the question, but at this point with Restrepo on the board, getting yourself another reliable weapon with Emeka Buka, even though they're both technically slots, this is the spot where I'm like, it works. You could put Tez Johnson literally in the Tank Dell role. Like that would be I would feel like that's kind of some like bad juju. So I'm going to go Xavier Restrepo here and just continue rebuilding that receiving core that is unhealthy, that is unreliable outside of Nico Collins, which has unreliable health. At number 90 for the Los Angeles Rams, you got Kelvin Banks. And we have 2 picks here. We're actually going to trade Cooper Kupp away, and it's going to be for like pretty much nothing. Okay, like that's the first thing. Xavier Restrepo is kind of like my dream pick for this team, but I do think the Steelers might be the team to take it on. So wherever the hell I have the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think that it would be like pick 249 based on the contract. Like it really would just be nothing. So he's 32 and he has the same amount of 1,000 yard receiving seasons as Kenny Golladay. Granted, one of those was the Triple Crown, but I do think that now Cooper Kupp is away. We could also still look at receiving weapons at this point, which Ricky White might be on the short list of dudes, but honestly, LeJontay Wester is the dude who I'm looking at. I mean, this dude is dynamic as all get out, but he could end up being the guy I just get at 100 because I love LeJontay Wester. I love him. And with the quarterbacks still available, I do think this is the spot where we see Jackson Dart go. So we've already drafted Kelvin Banks. Again, I know that Alaric Jackson might be the primary focus of the offseason. We'll see if that happens. If it does, then maybe I'd swap Kelvin Banks for a different tackle at that spot. But Jackson Dart's going to be the pick here, and we'll go after either wide receiver or corner at 100. At number 91, we have the Baltimore Ravens, and we have gotten Jordan Burch as well as Donovan Jackson. I think those are the key positions to hit. Now, at this point, I might want to get a contested catch threat, which Trey Harris, with the injury history, this is where I think I'm going to have him land. So again, we've got our offensive line fixed, got our edge fixed, and we're going to be able to get our receiving core another guy. Back-to-back Ole Miss dudes. At number 92 for the Jets, this is via Detroit, and we got Mason Graham, Jahdae Barron. I don't think this is via Detroit. I did some other trade with the Jets. So, or did I end up doing a pick swap? I probably did a pick swap. I'm tripping balls. But we got Jahdae Barron. We got Mason Graham. That's not the case. No, it's not. I'm forgetting which trade this is a part of. But we got our corner. We got our defensive interior. And now I'm actually going to look to see, is there any player that I would like to develop as a right or left tackle? And I do still think Jack Nelson is worth it. Where did I end up putting Jack Nelson? It's so funny that I ended up having 2 TJ Sanders right there. I'll need to delete that. But imagine all these guys moving up one. Let's see. Where did I end up having him? Oh, Rico Hallman needs to get pulled off here. Damn, this is my old board. My bad, y'all. My bad. I honestly can't even see him. But regardless, he's going to be probably around this range. So, oh, he's at number, no, he is not. He might be at number 62. I still like the potential from Jack Nelson. At 92, it's worth it. He's someone who I could see playing both left and right tackle, even though he's played exclusively left. I think that you guys are going to be perfectly fine taking a swing on tackle here at 92. 93, Saints, Belton, Tumalau, Warren. Honestly, all part of the same vision for the team as well. Defensive interior as well as wide receiver. Again, wide receiver, not going to do it. Could look at another running back, though. I've heard that you guys are looking for something in that regard. I also could see Tate Ratledge being worth it at this point and just saying we're going to just go BPA. Not a bad choice. Let's go Tate Ratledge. And then I actually just end up putting Belton the right tackle. Worst case scenario, you end up having an influx of talent at the guard position. At 94 for the Cleveland Browns, this is going to irk some people, but your OC is now very related to Jalen Milroe. And I think this is the spot where he needs to end up going. So we're going to take Jalen Milroe right there and potentially use him as a running back if you have to, like worst case scenario. At 95 for Philly, we took Darius Alexander to pair up back up with his former teammate and Quinion Mitchell. We have Myles Garrett as well. So we got edge and defense interior checked off. Guard would have been nice with Tate Ratledge, but we don't need to. That's not something that you really need to worry about at this point. Jalen Rivers would be fun, but I just don't really see somebody who, like, I could see Logan Brown being fun to try to train up. Not really the move. Not really the move. So quarterback, no. Wide receiver, no. Tight end, yes. And with Mason Taylor, Terrence Graham on the board, going to be kind of hard to say no to those two. Again, we already drafted defensive interior. We're going to go after Mason Taylor here at 95. 96 with the Chiefs. You got Loveland. You got TJ Sanders. You're sitting pretty. And I think right now, corner is going to be the best return on investment. And you got Denzel Burke here. But, I mean, I'm trying to see, because I like Mac McWilliams, Jabbar Muhammad, like all these dudes who are short are all good this year. Like you say a short corner's name, and I'm going to say that they're good. I'm going to go after Noel Williams here because his high level reps are some of the best in the class. So I'm going to be giving him the love that he deserves. At 97 for the Minnesota Vikings, we ended up getting, like, I think pick 101, but we got Siobhan Ravel. And interior offensive line wise, do we have anybody? Jalen Rivers showed out. He has 35-inch arms too. It's going to be super underwhelming to people. I get it. But please watch his reps from the Senior Bowl. This dude was awesome. So I can't miss out on running back though. I'm gonna go Devin Neal. Let's go. Let's get a really solid all-around back for the future. Let's do it. I was like, I had to. Number 98 for the Miami Dolphins. We have already gone after Milam as well as Nolan. We got to go after that defensive back group with Kevin Winston here. It is a no-brainer. 99, New York Giants. We got Cam Ward, Max Hairston. Good spot to be in, honestly. Good spot to be in. Because you could end up trading out here and getting some good draft capital. You could go after Tez Johnson, getting another deep threat, even though yours they have not really worked out too well. But I would say, actually, I want a team to move up for LeJontay Wester because I was going to take him to the Rams. Who needs a slot? Like, I'm trying to see, not too many teams. I actually love him on the Panthers, though. I love this. We're going to go, I actually quite like this idea. You're moving back 10 spots, so you can end up moving 20 there. I think that's actually really solid because we're going to keep the same quantity of picks for Carolina, and then we're going to do that for New York as well. We have the Panthers moving up here, and they got their corner, defensive tier, edge rusher. Let's get a really nice separating receiver, which you might want Tez, but I think that, honestly, the better receiver is LeJontay Wester out of Colorado. I love LeJontay. He's a top 100 player on my board. Leaving the Rams at pick 100 went Banks and Dart. We ended up trading away Cooper Kupp, but it pretty much is for nothing. I'm going to go after a player who should have been a first-round pick based on last year's performance. And can we just go back, please? Thank you. Okay, I wanted to show you guys the stats. There we go. He ended up having a down year this year, but he was a first-round pick coming into the year and ended off on a high note. He ended up doing a great job, especially versus Oregon, allowing 0 yards in single coverage. We're going to go after Denzel Burke there to kind of finish it off. So that is going to be the video. Let's go to full results so you guys get to see that last little recap again. I really do appreciate you guys doing everything for me. It's been fun. We're going to be continuing this throughout the entire draft season. Hope you enjoyed it. Love you. See you on the far side. Peace.